In this video, I'd like to talk about building an inexpensive outdoor storage cabinet. There's going to be times when you need to protect something from the weather, but you just don't have indoor storage available, whether it be wood or even bicycles. But you don't have to spend the hundreds or thousands of dollars that the big box stores expect you to pay for a shed. With only a minimum amount of woodworking skills, you can easily build this outdoor storage area. Let's take a look at how. The construction will be modular so one person can move it. We start by building the two end pieces. For stability, we'll use 2x6 construction. You can make the cabinet any size you want, but generally speaking, for each end piece you'll need 3 2x6s, one for each side and one for the top and bottom. The slope of the roof is up to you. Choose something that's aesthetically pleasing for the area you put in your shed. Set your chop saw cut angle to match the slope that you decided on. Cut the top end of the vertical support to this angle, and make the same angle cut on the horizontal support. Now the two boards should line up together, smoothly making the slope that you decided on. We just cut this joint. Now go over and do the same thing with this joint. Before moving on, remember you'll need to make the same cuts for the second end that you have to build. All the remaining cuts that are on the bottom are your simple 90-degree cuts. After you have your wood cut out, use two 3-inch wood screws to connect each joint. After the frame is built, you need to cover it. You can use plywood, which will be both sturdy and attractive, but since we're trying to keep the cost down, you can also use plastic. Just remember, the plastic's not nearly as pretty as the plywood. As for longevity, this structure here is about 4 years old, and I've had no problems with the plastic. Now we can get started on building the back of the shed. This required 7 2x4x8s, but this is my heavy-duty shed. I built a second shed just like this using 2x2s, at a considerable savings. And up to now it seems to be working just as well. The bottoms of all the vertical posts will be 90-degree cuts, and the top cuts will be at the same angle that you previously made for your roof earlier. The reason for this is, when you install your top board, you want it to lay flat at the same angle as your roof. Use this measurement here to determine how high you're going to build the back. For a cover, inexpensive plastic works fine. This is my shed with the 2x2 wall, and you may notice I threw some extra corner supports on there. It's just a 2x2 with two 45-degree angles cut. You most likely probably don't have to do this, but I did it because I spent a lot of time riding on the train called over-engineered. If you're building a storage for wood, you want ventilation to be able to get in there. Yet you want to keep rodents and other critters out of your wood supply. You can install 1/4-inch wire mesh. This works because the house the shed is butted up to keeps the weather out of the shed. But be forewarned, this is a wee bit more expensive than plastic. Moving on, now we'll build the front of the shed. Since this will be supporting the weight of a plywood door, you want to build this out of 2x4s. Make all of your cuts like you did on the back side of the shed. I've found that 2 openings for 2 doors works out very well. This is how tall you'll build it. When you're finished, we're hoping this is what your front and back look like. We're almost ready for assembly, but before we do, let's talk foundation. Although it's not absolutely necessary, I highly recommend you put down concrete pavers. Keeping your shed out of the dirt will not only help keep rodents out of the shed, but will also increase the lifespan of it. These are 12x12x2-inch pavers, very easy to install. Put down a layer of leveling sand and then place your pavers. And it doesn't have to just be plain gray. You can alternate red and gray. I'd like to give credit to this pattern to my bride. Finally, it's time to assemble. Put your front and back piece into place, then butt up your end caps. Now at each of the 4 corners, you want to drive 2 3-inch wood screws through the corners of both the front and back frames into the end cap. Since it'll be several years before I disassemble this, as a reminder to myself, I always mark which screws to remove to separate the modules from each other. Hang in there, we're almost done. Let's build the roof. Our building material will be flat metal brackets and 1x4 boards. Cut your middle boards long enough using a 90-degree cut so that the roof will slightly overlap the top and bottom of the shed. Don't make the bottom overlap too long, or it will interfere with installing the door later. Lay all of your cut-out pieces on a flat surface, then install a metal bracket at every single joint. It's actually somewhat surprising how sturdy this structure is with brackets on only one side. But it works. Now, lay some plastic out on the flat surface, and lay your roof frame on top of the plastic with the bracket sides facing the plastic. Fold the plastic back around the 1x4s like you're wrapping a Christmas present. Then use a staple gun to keep the plastic in place. Pick which side of your roof will be the uphill side. The roof is symmetrical, so it doesn't actually matter which side you pick. And install a 90-degree bracket at each of these two locations. The purpose of this 90-degree bracket is when you put the roof onto your shed, it'll want to slide off because it's angled. The 90-degree bracket rests against the back of the shed, holding the roof in place. So, your roof is installed, but it's not permanently fastened. The reason why this feature is nice is you can easily remove the roof to put long objects into your storage shed, then put the roof back. Again, it's light enough one person can lift it. Live in an area where a thin piece of plastic won't cut it for the weather? Use a tarp. A heavy tarp will introduce a little bit of a problem, but don't worry, it's easily fixable. The bottom side of your roof really needs an abrupt or sharp edge. This allows the water to drip off properly. With a tarp, it's more of a rounded edge. The water flows down the roof and then follows that rounded edge right around into your shed. You can fix this by using some old shingles. Install a short piece along the top edge of your shed. Now the water goes around that corner, hits that shingle, then drips right off the edge. Don't mount it on the roof. You want to be able to lift the roof off without damaging the shingles. Finally, let's talk doors. A rectangular piece of plywood. A door for each of the openings in front of your shed. You don't want plywood exposed to the weather, so make sure you paint them. For handles, you can buy expensive metal handles. Or a much cheaper alternative is a short piece of 2x2 screwed into the plywood. The easiest way to mount the door is to drill a hole in the top corners of the door, have an assistant hold it in place about a half an inch above the ground, and install a screw through each of the holes into your shed frame. Now the door will just hang there on the screws. Ready to remove the door, lift the door up about 1/8 of an inch and pull it off. Let's throw in a quick bonus track here. Remember your end pieces are made out of 2x6s. That's plenty of room to put a couple of extra shelves so you can store small stuff. Well, that's about it. I hope this video has helped save you some money in the future, and thanks for watching.